So, Adam Kleinberg from Traction, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well. Thanks for agreeing to do one of these video interviews. So, before we get started, before I ask you a couple of questions, why don't you give a little background on who you are, what you do, and how you got there?
Sure. So I'm Adam Kleinberg. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Traction. Traction is a marketing accelerator um, for in-house teams and brands. Um, you know, I started Traction in 2001. I had been a creative at another number of agencies. I started the San Francisco office of Tribal TDB. Before that, I was at an agency called Think No Ideas, which was really an integrated agency ahead of its time. Um, and in 2001, when the kind of economy collapsed, we started Traction. And we actually had this idea for Traction originally that was to be a freelance co-op. We had all just, me and my friends had all just lost our jobs. And, it was everyone in San Francisco was like trying to figure out what they were going to do next. So we're like, why don't we just kind of create this collective model and we'll kind of bring together work. And eventually that kind of turned into us starting to win some real significant clients and growing. And we had an incredible run. We picked up Adobe and SAP and Apple, a lot of technology companies being in the Bay Area. Um, Over the years, we won a Ad Age Small Agency Award. Got a lot of notoriety. But about 4 years ago, we kind of pivoted our business. We kind of started to see, after having a lot of success for a lot of years, that the agency model wasn't working anymore. So we said, well, how can we fix it? And we had this one partnership with Apple that we'd had at that point for 15 years. Now it's been almost 19. And that was working really well. So we're like, well, why don't we look at what we're doing here, where we're actually working as a real extension of their team, of their in-house agent. It's not even, they don't even think of it as an in-house agency, it's an in-house team.
Mhm.
So we actually made some really hard decisions. We let go of people who had been around for a long time, and anyone who wasn't on Apple, we kind of let go, and we kind of tore Traction down to its studs and rebuilt around it, the success we were having. And with this new outlook of focused on really being an extension of in-house teams with a liquid workforce where we engage more like a consultancy, and we have kind of an army of fractional talent. So that's really empowered us to do is not only have a broader range of talent, um, everything from marketing technology through creative, through experience design and development to media and social, um, and all the strategy and analytics and data management underneath. Um, but to be able to reinvest in more senior people, because we extracted all the overhead and the bloat out of the agency model. So we've kind of got rid of that. We also got rid of our office. We're completely remote now, and it's unlocked incredible growth for us.
As you've done this pivot, as you're starting to work as an in-house partner or a partner for the in-house teams, what is it that you're seeing the CMOs gravitate towards? Like, what are they identifying as some of their biggest, most immediate challenges that you are able to come and help them with?
From a marketing perspective,
Mhm.
right? Everyone has kind of over-indexed on performance, right?
Mhm.
Performance has gotten harder to achieve. At the same side, like mass market brand advertising has essentially evaporated, right? The
Mhm.
exception of like sporting events. Um, but brand is like, people are realizing brand is just as important, and they need to bridge that gap between branding and performance. So we've really kind of tried to create a capabilities and an approach to help brands do that. Everyone is dealing with being asked to do more with less and
Mhm.
faster.
Mhm.
Uh, there continues to be a need for accountability and being data driven in every decision. And companies are struggling because their data is not clean, it's not well segmented, it's not well organized, it's not ready to
Right.
take where they want to go, and they often don't have the infrastructure set up to help them achieve that. And we work with a broad range of companies. I threw out a lot of Fortune 500 companies, but we also have startups we work with.
Mhm.
And when we look at this kind of what does it mean to be supporting in-house, like the in-house capability at every company is completely different.
Yeah.
This is why we kind of call it a liquid workforce. We're trying to map the reinvent the agency model by aligning the experience clients need with the experience that talent wants. So, we try and like meld to the needs of the client with the right talent, set them up for success. We're not a staffing agency,
No.
right? But we do kind of embed teams.
And I feel like we're at the precipice of a change or a shift generationally in executive marketers, CMOs, et cetera. I feel like the last 10 years or so, 15 years or so, we've focused heavily on data. And you have a generation of CMOs that have probably started to climb to that level. They're somewhat familiar with the data and the challenges in the MarTech stack, et cetera. They are at least semi-comfortable with the concept. And even though they maybe have never been inside the plumbing and actually done the work to set these things up, et cetera. But I feel like we're on the precipice of another big shift, which is going to further date some of that generation of CMOs, because not only is it about data, but as you say, it's gone from performance to this other model where a lot of people are talking about direct to consumer. A lot of people are talking about understanding the different behaviors of the consumer better. And that's putting some of these marketers in even more of a tenuous situation. So to me, I feel like there's this new opportunity for a new generation of CMOs that understand all of this. Are you seeing that? Is that fair to call?
Yeah, I think brand is going to be synonymous with experience. Like, we for years have called ourselves like brand experience designers at Traction. And like more and more, like your brand is not just going to be your logo and your color palette, your fonts and your TV spot or your billboard, but it's going to be like, what is it that makes you different? What is it that connects you with people as humans? What are the ideas that you have that penetrate culture?
Yeah, that's a really good point. That by itself,
Yeah.
there's a generation of marketers that don't fully understand that yet.
Yeah, that's totally, and it's even in, like maybe that's obvious. Like one of the guys on my team, one of the consultants on Traction is Babs Ranjaya, and he was at Unilever when they did the Dove Real Beauty sketch, which was like one of the most successful engagement campaigns in history, and has catapulted Dove from like hundreds of millions to billions in revenue as a brand. That's all about like taking an idea that penetrates culture, right? It's about how do you create cognitive dissonance around things that people care about. And that might be through content, it may be through, value, utility, different ways of approaching that, different strategies. And it's not even just for consumer brands though. Like, the customers of a B2B company are humans, right? They live in their own culture. Like we did a campaign that helped Lenovo, like they were basically selling laptops to IT guys, right? And servers to IT guys. And, when we talked to when we did research and we talked to IT guys, we saw like a trend of them all telling war stories about their users, right? Like, like some guy literally told a story about a user being on a vacation on a safari, and a rhino charged the Jeep he was in, and he threw the laptop at the rhino, and the rhino on it, and then he like handed it in with an IT ticket. So we created this campaign called Users Happen.
Yeah.
What happens when you do that is like for the first time, like Lenovo is seeing like their audience like joining in the conversation, like loving the campaign, being part of it, sharing stories on social media. We were able to had so much legs that not only were we creating content, but kind of brought that together in all different types of ways. But like they could go to a conference and just say, tell us your Users Happen story. And user generated content that became some of the best content that was produced for the campaign was literally just like handing out, having a booth at a conference for random guys to show up.
And follow that, because that's a fantastic example of being able to harness user behavior in a way and take that and turn that into a campaign. But that's not something that very often you can just sit down and plan. Like, you can't put together a traditional media plan for that type of a campaign. That's a creative concept that you have to start to seed into different places and see what catches fire.
Yeah.
How do you help these marketers, or how do you help them understand how to take this and create this and recognize it, foster it, and grow it?
Well, I think, it starts with like making sure you have, whether it's a brand or a product, that you've got a narrative, like a story that can be told and retold. And that's kind of, like, I feel like a lot of brand positioning is a very dry endeavor, of like, we're
Sure.
going to create your pyramid and we're going to organize it this way. And you get so focused on like, here's your RTBs, here's your, like, that you forget that you're telling a story to human beings, that you
Yep.
want them to tell to their friends and their wives and their husbands and whoever else, and that kind of humanity of storytelling, right?
Yeah.
And when you look at like going beyond positioning and really understanding what is the humanity here, like, and it whether it's the users happen, like the positioning for those Lenovo laptops was that they were you know they were these yoga things, and they were based on the ThinkPad, so they were obviously flexible, surprisingly tough was our positioning statement.
Right.
But the campaign told that positioning through the lens of culture. So we have the approach we call culture lensing. So it's about looking and telling, expressing position through the lens of culture.
I like that. What do you think what do you think a marketing team should be comprised of right now to be able to balance this shift in performance, this understanding of the behaviors of the consumers that you're trying to talk to?
You need people who think differently and in a more modern way about culture as the foundation of brand.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that is a big part of it. I don't know if you know Bill Pierce. He was,
Yeah, of course. He's one of my
yeah,
mentors.
yeah, he's one of my mentors too. He's like Durham. He's like mentor
Yeah.
to many.
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, who are your clients? Who are you working with?" And probably I was like, "Well, this is one's a marketing director. This one's a senior manager." He's like, "Well, if you're not talking to the CMO, like everyone else in the marketing organization is looking down.
Yep.
We optimize. How do we do the same for less? There's only like one, maybe two or three people in the entire marketing org whose job is to look up,
Mm-hmm.
look forward. And I think you need more today. You need more forward thinkers. If you're not thinking about AI right now and how that can transform your business, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Like, you need to roll up your sleeves. Traction has created this whole thing called the Future Proof Project,
Mm-hmm.
that is a think tank of over 100 brand marketers that are helping one another navigate and share learnings, insights, roll up their sleeves together and figure out how they're going to take advantage of this technology, not just to create efficiency, but to create competitive advantage. We're starting to actually market workshops. I announced yesterday I was on stage at Adweek's Next Tech conference in New York City, and I announced that we're doing these future-proof boot camps that companies can now engage our future-proof network of AI experts,
Mm-hmm.
come to their companies and help them with whether it's an executive overview to set the stage, whether it's using third-party tools to create efficiency or spawn creativity, or if it's like cleaning up your data to get it prepared, whether it's understanding the opportunity of AI agents. Right now everyone is focused on generative AI. In a month, if not weeks, like, everyone's going to be focused on agents. Soon you'll be able to talk to your computer or talk to a platform, and it will like to use Excel for this, and
Sure.
Outlook for that, and your calendar for this, or whatever it may be. It'll kind of like bring together the right tools and just solve problems for you.
Right. Are there
Yeah.
any other sort of threats, or let's say hidden opportunities for these marketers right now, things that they have to be paying attention to in your eyes?
Well, I think, you mentioned earlier, it depends, I think, a little bit on, um, that's a little bit by industry,
Sure,
right?
sure.
Like if you are selling packaged goods, the reason that you're focused, you're all of a sudden like, oh shit, we got to get our direct to consumer business shaped up,
Yeah.
is because these retail media networks are now coming after your margin,
Mhm.
right? Like all they are is the equivalent of an end cap display, shopper marketing. They've kind of replaced that, right? But I was at a conference and I wound up at a fire pit with a few CMOs of major brands, people, I'm not going to mention their names, but
Yeah.
um, and they were like, these, and they were at a retail media network conference that day. And they're like, these retail media networks think that this is new money that is going to pay for them. It's not, it's coming from somewhere else,
Yeah.
right? Like there is no new money, going into marketing.
Yeah.
It's are shrinking, not growing. So that means that, they're taking it from a different pool of their marketing budget. And maybe they need it to be on Amazon. But if Amazon is eating your margin, by, adding for, you know, or Walmart or whoever, like suddenly saying, okay, you're already spending all this with us, but we need you to spend 15 million more.
You're an OD, that's established. Everybody knows who you are. If you were talking to somebody coming into this business this year, next year, and the year following, what piece of advice are you going to give to those people right now? What do they need to focus on in order to be successful 10 years from now?
Well, I would start by like, start with thought leadership,
Yeah.
like dive in, be curious. Like curiosity is going to be the greatest attribute of talent. If you're not someone who wants to figure out what's next, because the rate of change is only going to continue
Hmm.
to accelerate. Like think differently about, look at the companies you want to work for.
Hmm.
Are they going to foster that environment? We had a future proof dinner the other night, and she made the point that like no one has 10,000 hours in AI yet.
Good point. That's a good
Yeah.
point.
Um, so there's no Gladwell's out there. When I look at me years ago,
Hmm.
and like I would say the biggest, I'm no smarter than I was then. In fact, I was probably smarter then. I think I'm getting tired.
We're losing it. We're getting old. We're losing it.
I'm losing it. I'm like, no, but I think having that belief that if I see something and I think it's not right,
Hmm.
so, and I know it's not right, to have, like challenge that assumption,
Yeah.
because if you really can see that something's not right, probably isn't.
Yeah.
And when you're younger, you don't really have that confidence in your own vision.
As you get more experience, I find that we tend to become a little bit more humble and we're willing to vulnerably say, I'm I don't know some things. Whereas when we were younger, it was very easy to say, I know it, and then turn around and go say, I gotta go figure this out and pretend you knew it the entire time. Whereas now, like if you or I don't know something, we'll go learn it quickly, but we're not afraid to say, I don't know that yet.
Yeah.
I think there's a level of humility and vulnerability which makes it easier to accomplish things now than maybe it was before when it was pure brash arrogance.
That's actually been something I observed since we pivoted, that I didn't expect, pivoting to this model, is that we've taken all the overhead and blowed out. We bring in more senior people. Often they've worked on the brand side. We got and those people are more, because they know more, because they're
Yeah.
more experienced, and they're more comfortable showing how they think,
Yeah.
showing like we've gotten rid of the agency tada as a construct.
Good.
Right? Like we literally roll up our sleeves because we don't feel like we have to, you know, show the magic. Like
Yeah.
I would much rather open up Figma, and say, here's some half-baked ideas,
Yeah. And start
some
messing around.
or strategies or whatever it may be, and talk them through and shape them with your customer, your
Yeah.
client. And that is something that is really, really uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Well, Adam, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. And I hope everybody else will too when I get this thing posted.
Awesome. I hope so too. Thank you. I'm honored to be one of your first guests, and
Absolutely.
look forward to seeing you soon.